For 6 long months, the cowboy lived in a kind of silence that wasn't quiet at all. Because silence, when it follows loss, is louder than screams, and every morning he woke before the sun, his body trained by ranch life but his heart heavy with something no amount of hard work could ease. The baby crying softly from the small room that once held laughter, a crib placed where a dresser used to be, reminders everywhere of a woman who would never return. His wife taken suddenly, cruelly, leaving behind a child too young to understand why arms that once held him were gone forever. The cowboy tried to be everything at once: father, mother, protector, provider. But the land demanded strength. The cattle demanded time, and grief demanded everything else. So he searched for a nanny, not casually, not hopefully, but desperately. 6 months of asking, pleading, trusting, and being disappointed as women came to the ranch full of promises and left. Within days or weeks, some frightened by the isolation, others overwhelmed by the baby's cries, a few unsettled by the sadness that clung to the house like dust, and each goodbye chipped away at the cowboy's resolve, making him wonder if this land he loved so fiercely was the same land that was slowly breaking him. Nights were the worst. When the baby cried and the moonlight poured through the windows, and he paced the floor whispering stories he didn't believe himself, apologizing to a child who deserved more than exhaustion and loneliness. And more than once he stood on the porch staring at the open land, asking a sky that never answered how much longer he could do this alone. Until one evening, as the sun bled into the horizon and painted the desert gold, he saw a figure riding toward the ranch. Not hurried, not cautious, but steady, dignified. A woman on horseback moving as if she belonged to the land itself. And something about her presence made the air feel different, heavier and calmer all at once. And when she stopped before him, when her eyes met his and then gently shifted to the baby in his arms, the baby who had been crying suddenly grew quiet, as if recognizing something familiar in her stillness. And she spoke only 4 words, softly but firmly, words that cut through 6 months of silence like rain on dry earth. Now I am here, and if you feel the weight of this moment, if stories like this pull you in and make you feel something real, remember to subscribe to this channel, because this is only the beginning. No one at the ranch asked her where she came from, and she did not offer an explanation, because her life had taught her that some stories are too heavy to speak and some wounds heal only when left undisturbed. She was Apache, raised between fading traditions and a modern world that never fully accepted her, carrying the strength of her ancestors and the quiet grief of a people who had learned survival through loss. She had lost family to time and cruelty, lost land that was once promised, and lost faith in places that pretended to offer safety, but delivered judgment instead. So she traveled light, owning little more than her horse and the knowledge of how to endure. And when she looked at the cowboy's baby, she did not see inconvenience or obligation. She saw a soul broken before it had a chance to be whole, a child already learning absence, and something ancient and protective stirred inside her. She stayed that night, then the next, not because of money or desperation, but because she understood loneliness in a way that didn't require explanation, and she cared for the baby with patience that seemed endless, singing old Apache lullabies that softened the baby's cries and seemed to calm the restless wind outside, moving through the house with respect, as if honoring the spirit of the woman who once lived there, never touching what wasn't hers, never forcing herself into spaces she wasn't invited. And the cowboy watched all of this from a distance, unsure whether to trust again, unsure whether hope was something he could afford, yet unable to ignore the way the baby slept longer, laughed louder, and reached for her with small hands full of trust. And slowly, without realizing it, the cowboy began to breathe differently, his shoulders relaxing, his nights growing quieter, his heart remembering what it felt like not to be constantly afraid. And still he said little, because men like him were raised to survive, not to heal. But the Apache woman didn't ask him to speak, didn't demand gratitude, didn't fill the silence with unnecessary words. She simply stayed, and in staying, she changed everything. If you believe the most powerful people are the ones who show up when no one else does, take a moment to subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be heard. Weeks turned into months, and the ranch transformed in ways that couldn't be measured by time but could be felt in the air. The baby's laughter echoing through rooms that once held only memories. The cowboy finding himself returning from the fields, not with dread but with anticipation. knowing someone would be there, someone who cared without conditions. And one evening, as they sat outside watching the sky change colors, the cowboy finally spoke, his voice rough, halting, as if unused to honesty, telling her about his wife, about the way she laughed, the way she dreamed of raising their child under open skies, and the way death had arrived without warning, stealing not just a life but a future. And the Apache woman listened, her eyes steady, her presence unshaken, understanding that grief did not need fixing, only witnessing. And for the first time since his loss, the cowboy did not feel alone in his pain. The baby grew stronger, healthier, reaching milestones with joyful determination. And neighbors who once whispered about the grieving widower began to notice the change, the light returning to the ranch, the sense that something sacred was taking root. And still, there was no romance forced into the story, no dramatic declarations, just trust building slowly, carefully, like something too precious to rush. And the cowboy realized that he had, stopped searching for a nanny without even noticing, because what he had found was something far more rare, a person who stayed, who understood the land, the child, and the silence between them. And one night, as he watched the Apache woman place the sleeping baby into the crib, he understood that healing does not arrive loudly. It arrives quietly, through consistency, through kindness, through choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. If you're feeling this story unfold in your heart, subscribe now, because the most powerful moments are still ahead. The realization came not in a dramatic moment, but in a simple one. A morning when the sun rose over the ranch, and the cowboy watched the Apache woman teaching his child how to walk on the soft earth, her laughter gentle, the baby's hands gripping her fingers. And he understood that home is not a place. It is the people who remain when everything else is gone. And when he finally asked her why she stayed, why she chose a lonely ranch and a broken man, she answered with the same calm certainty she had carried from the beginning, telling him that some people don't arrive by accident. They arrive because they are needed. Because healing is a path that sometimes crosses unexpected lives. And when she said, "Now I am here," she had meant not just that moment, but every moment after it. The ranch no longer felt like a burden but a promise, the future no longer frightening but open. And the cowboy realized that love does not always come as passion or fire. It sometimes comes as stability, respect, and shared silence. And as the child grew, surrounded by two people who chose to stay, the land itself seemed to rest easier, the wind softer, the nights warmer. And this story, like many in life, was not about replacing what was lost, but about honoring it by living again. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that even after loss, life can offer unexpected grace, subscribe to the channel now, because more powerful, emotional stories like this are waiting for you, and your support helps keep them alive.